Alright guys, welcome back to a new video from Mama. It's been a while since I've done one of these Overwatch videos, but I've started getting viewers who are asking for them, so I've decided to pick it up again. Trouble is, I've been out of the Overwatch scene for so long, I don't know nearly as much as I used to, considering the meta has drastically shifted since my last Overwatch video. So today I decided I would talk about how seasons 12 and 13 went with me being a support main in both seasons. Here's a short clip of how it went.
This Torb.
Hammond has my Discord.
Kill the Torb behind.
Oh!
I'm trying, buddy.
I needed that barrier. I died.
So the topic of today is how the tank and support roles work in tandem. The support and tank roles definitely need to have synergy between them. They need to dance together, move in unison to a rhythm set by the tank and held together by the healer. Any Reinhardt main will tell you how much they love that moment when their health is bouncing up and down rapidly as they take damage while being healed, so they can drop their shield and start swinging. But if the support isn't doing their job, then the tanks can't properly do their job, and now the tanks begin to resent their role. The opposite is true for the supports though. If tanks are too aggressive, supports can oftentimes get left behind and fall prey to Reapers and Tracers, and then supports begin to resent their roles. So it's imperative that the tanks and supports be able to work together. One of the most important things tanks and supports need is the ability to communicate. Even if the DPS players don't want to talk to you, you two need to be able to communicate. Something I struggled with for a long time was dealing with quiet, uncooperative DPS players. Even if I was playing DPS, it was still so struggling to watch DPS mains trickle or engage too early and cost us teamfights. To combat this, I decided to do something I now call forced synergy. Ever get those Reapers and Genjis who flank and engage the enemy by themselves with no regard to their teammates? Or how about a Bastion who doesn't sit behind barriers and thinks he can take a team all by himself? I still get them to this day, but they're not nearly as big a problem anymore because I learned to force synergy with them. Instead of bellyaching about how they're not cooperating and causing us to lose, I simply started following their lead. Here's what I mean. Here's an example. Let's say you've got a Genji who just keeps trickling and dying and is never there for team fights because he engages too early or too late. What you should do is tell the rest of your team to group up and wait for him to die. Once he dies and respawns, you then follow him to the fight and wait for him to engage and then attack at the same time. That way you keep a 6-man fight no matter how uncooperative he is. This is not your ideal scenario, of course, but it is a way to make the most out of a bad situation. You can force synergy with tanks and supports as well, but I have found it's not nearly as effective as with DPS mains. Damage heroes have self-healing abilities or mobility to get them out of a sticky situation, so they're the best equipped for flying solo, though I don't recommend it. Tanks and supports, while most of them have either one of those mechanics, will probably be far too busy blocking damage or saving teammates than to run to a health pack or get out of a team fight. It's far better that tanks and supports don't have to force synergy, but can communicate effectively to make proper plays. And if the supports and tanks can communicate, then they can both be on the same page when it comes to forcing synergy with your DPS players. The next thing you need is to be mindful of each other. This is much harder for tanks to do, so I'll start with the tank's role in taking care of your supports. One of the best things you can do for your supports is getting out in front and getting the enemy to look at you and not at your supports. This is ideally what you want to have happen, but probably all of us know that that doesn't work 100% of the time. Flankers know that they are most effective when avoiding engagements that take too long. Fighting a tank usually takes forever, so they'll ignore a charging Rein and wait for the squishy supports to try and catch up to the tanks. So how do you avoid a scenario like that? Step 1, listen to your supports. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen to Reapers and Tracers because my tanks are too focused on snipers and Orisas to come back and protect me. If every teamfight your supports keep saying that they can't do anything because Doomfist and Reaper keep killing them, don't ignore them or say, you've got to work something out. You should be saying, okay, we need to work something out. Maybe your off tank needs to hang back a little bit or swap to Roadhog so that your supports are not free kills for the enemy flankers. Don't tunnel vision so hard that you don't notice when your supports are down. Step 2, adjust your engagements. Try to avoid situations where you need massive healing. It is expensive for healers to heal tanks, so try not to suck all the healing resources away from your DPSs who may need it as well. Maybe you're engaging too fast and need to slow down. Maybe you need to take your team up to the high ground so at least they won't have Reapers jumping on their heads. Maybe instead of pinning to initiate every team fight, you speed boost and swing your hammer so that your supports aren't left behind. Whatever you do, don't ignore your supports. If they have a flanker problem, then you have a flanker problem. If they can't avoid flankers, try taking a tank more suited to deal with whoever is countering them. I'm not saying it is your sole responsibility to protect the healers, because DPS players should also be wary of the supports. But if you don't, then probably no one will. Supports, you need to pay attention to your tanks. You should be on your tank's butt as often as possible. You should know exactly where they are at all times, even more so than you might pay attention to your DPS players. Your tanks are relying on any healing you can give them, since they can do none for themselves, except for Roadhog. Your DPS players can heal themselves or dash over to a health pack. Don't ignore your DPS players, but for the most part, they shouldn't need that much healing. Of course, you want to save everyone.
Nice, Zach. Widow.
Oh, I got her, bro.
Oh,
she was
Tracer's
dead.
fine.
That's okay. Let her be.
Well, he
Let
almost
her
killed
be.
Blackie.
Killed.
But in the current meta, your tanks tend to be more important than DPS players. And again, they can pretty much take care of themselves. Hopefully this helps improve your Overwatch game. If there's anything else you want me to talk about, let me know in the comment section what it is. Be sure to leave a like and check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys later.